It was late at night when Clara found herself unable to sleep. The faint sound of movement drifted across from her neighbor Ethan's property, where the old stable stood half hidden behind tall wooden fences. For weeks she had noticed the lights flickering there long after midnight. Everyone in the neighborhood thought Ethan worked too hard, but Clara felt there was something more, something he wasn't telling anyone. She slipped a thin jacket over her nightdress and stepped quietly into the cool night air. The streets were empty, lit only by a pale silver glow from the moon. Her heart raced as she walked toward the stable, every crunch of gravel beneath her feet sounding too loud. She told herself she only wanted to see what kept him awake so late, but deep down, she knew curiosity wasn't the only thing pulling her there. The stable door was slightly open, a sliver of golden light spilling through. She paused, her hand hovering near the wood, listening. Inside, she heard Ethan's low voice, calm, gentle, speaking to someone. Her breath caught. Another voice answered softly, a woman's voice. Clara's pulse quickened, she leaned closer, the light brushing across her face, and for a moment she saw them through the narrow gap, Ethan and a woman she didn't recognize, sitting close, their hands brushing as they whispered. The scene was tender, secret, and heavy with something Clara didn't want to admit she felt. A cold wave of realization struck her chest. It wasn't just the stable he was guarding every night, it was this secret, this hidden part of his life. She stepped back quietly, careful not to make a sound. The night air suddenly felt heavier, and her heart sank as she turned away, trying to make sense of the mixture of jealousy, shock, and sadness twisting inside her. Back in her house, Clara sat by the window, staring at the faint light still glowing from Ethan's stable. She wanted to look away, to forget what she had seen, but her mind kept replaying it over and over, every whisper echoing in her thoughts until dawn began to rise. The morning sunlight slipped through Clara's curtains, but she hadn't slept at all. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Ethan's face, his soft smile, the way his hand brushed against that woman's. It shouldn't have mattered to her, but it did. The memory gnawed at her chest, heavy and unshakable. As she made coffee, she caught sight of Ethan through her kitchen window. He was outside, carrying a bundle of hay to the stable like nothing had happened. His calm expression made her wonder if last night had been real at all. Maybe she had imagined it. Maybe exhaustion had tricked her mind. But then she remembered the woman's laughter, light, real, unforgettable. That afternoon, Clara tried to distract herself with chores, but her thoughts kept circling back. She opened her window, letting in the sound of the wind, the creak of the stable gate, and the occasional low hum of Ethan's voice. She told herself she wasn't listening, yet every word pulled her deeper into the confusion she was trying to escape. Later, while returning from the market, she saw Ethan near his front yard. Their eyes met for a moment. He smiled the way he always did, friendly, effortless, unaware of the storm inside her. She forced a polite nod, but her throat felt tight. Part of her wanted to ask about the woman, another part didn't want to hear the answer. That evening, Clara's friend Nora dropped by. Over tea, Clara tried to sound casual. "Have you ever seen anyone visiting Ethan lately?" she asked, pretending to stir her cup. Nora shrugged. "Sometimes a lady comes by, dark hair, always wearing a scarf. I think they work together on something." "Why?" Clara shook her head quickly. "No reason. Just curious." When Nora left, the silence in the house felt louder than before. Clara stood at her window again, watching the faint light appear in the stable. There it was, the same golden glow, the same quiet movement. Her heart ached with questions she didn't have the courage to ask. She told herself to stop looking, to move on, to forget. But every night, her eyes found that same light again. Every night, she wondered what it meant. And deep inside, she feared that the truth, whatever it was, had already changed something between them forever. Days passed, but the unease inside Clara only grew stronger. She stopped greeting Ethan when they crossed paths, afraid her voice might tremble and reveal what she knew. Yet, she couldn't avoid him completely. Their houses were too close, their lives too quietly intertwined. Each morning, she'd hear his gate creak open, his steady footsteps walking toward the stable, and her heart would tighten all over again. One afternoon, as storm clouds gathered over the small town, Clara decided she couldn't keep living with half-truths. The weight of silence was heavier than the pain of whatever she might discover. She wrapped her shawl tighter around her shoulders and walked to Ethan's property, her shoes brushing against the damp earth. The stable door was shut this time, but she could hear voices inside, familiar, calm, and strangely tender. Before she could knock, the door opened. Ethan stood there, surprised but not startled. His hair was tousled, his shirt flecked with dust, but his eyes held the same warmth she'd always known. "Clara," he said softly, "I didn't expect to see you." "I know," she replied, her voice unsteady. "I just wanted to ask you something." He stepped aside, letting her in. Inside the stable, Clara saw the woman again, the same one from that night. But now, under the soft light, she noticed details she'd missed before: sketches on the walls, paint-stained brushes, and a half-finished sculpture resting on a table. It was a beautiful carving of a horse, detailed and lifelike. The woman smiled kindly. "Oh, you must be Clara," she said. "Ethan's told me about his neighbor who loves the night air." Clara blinked, unsure what to say. Ethan gave a quiet laugh. "She's my sister, Lila," he explained. "She's been helping me restore the old stable into a small art studio. We didn't want to tell anyone until it was finished." For a moment, Clara couldn't speak. Relief rushed through her, mingled with embarrassment and a strange kind of peace. The jealousy she'd carried melted away, leaving behind only warmth, and a touch of regret for having doubted him. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I thought," Ethan shook his head gently. "You don't need to explain. Sometimes what we see in the dark isn't always the whole truth." They stood there for a while, the storm outside fading into a light drizzle. When Clara finally returned home, she felt lighter, almost free. That night, the stable light glowed again, but this time it no longer haunted her. It became a quiet comfort, a sign that not every secret hides betrayal, and not every story ends with heartbreak. She closed her curtains and smiled to herself, realizing that sometimes, understanding comes not from what we see, but from the courage to ask.